Good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Green Room. This is our 31st installation of Beyond the Green Room. That jaunty little music that you heard is the overture to a show that only the most fanatic of musical theater collectors would remember, and it's called Privates on Parade. And it introduces our show today, but I hope it doesn't give you the wrong impression. It's not that kind of show. It's a theater chat show, so keep your privates out of the parade, please. Anyway, I have two very charming Southern gentlemen on my panel today. We were supposed to have a third panelist today, John Snidarczyk, who runs the Future Songbook series, Arts and Artists of Tomorrow. I unfortunately cannot be with us. He had just about an hour ago, he contacted me and said he was having a pet emergency. His cat was ill. So being a good cat dad, he decided, of course, you know, cats and kids are more important than theater talk. So we wish his kitty a very speedy recovery, and perhaps we'll get John on a future show very soon where we'll be working on that. But without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the two guests who are with us today. This is the first time we've ever had a stage manager on the show, and he is a stage manager extraordinaire. And so he's going to talk a little bit about what the craft of stage managing is, especially for those of you who don't know what a professional stage manager is up to. Please welcome Mr. Randy Lawson.
Hi, everybody. Hello, David.
Hi, Randy. Where are you now? I forgot to ask you, where are you broadcasting from? I
am currently in the great state of Tennessee. I'm riding out the pandemic in Tennessee at this point. So, all righty. See, this is, we go to all points. Spanning the globe.
All right, let's bring on our other guest, a very talented actor who I've had the pleasure of sharing a stage with. Please welcome Doug Trapp.
Hello, everybody. Nice to be here.
It's great to have you. So where are you, Doug?
Well, I am in Germantown, New York, in the Hudson Valley, 2 hours north of the city.
So we're practically neighbors right
Practically.
now. I wasn't sure. But so to open up the conversation, what we do every week here on Beyond the Green Room, for better or for worse, is I ask my guests how we met. And my memory of it may not be the same as yours, and that's sometimes where the fun comes in, but at least we begin to reminisce about our roots, our theatrical roots together. So I'm going to ask you first, Doug. We'll go back alphabetically. So how did we meet?
We met in a production of A Little Night Music at the Ordway Center for the Performing Arts in St. Paul, Minnesota. Excuse me, newsflash, it's snowing outside my window. Strange. Just want to let you know. Perfect timing to talk about Minnesota, because David and I did A Little Night Music in the fall through the holidays, so we got plenty of snow. It was 1998. I know it well because I had quit my advertising job 3 weeks before booking Night Music as my first equity show, and I was so excited to work with fancy New York actors, of which David certainly was up there. And I was the male swing for and covered, I don't know, 4 of the men in the show. And as David quickly decided, myself and the female swing were part of the Eve Harrington chorus, because we, of course, had to shadow them throughout rehearsal and do everything they did about 10 feet behind them. And just in case one of them tripped and fell on a banana peel we put on the ground.
Was that you following me around? I don't know.
Bill Gilness actually understudied you, and I understudied Bill. So, you know, through a process of elimination, I was always there.
But you were on stage, though.
I was, because Worth did a wonderful thing of, he's like, don't you want to be in the play? Don't you want to be in the show? And I'm like, of course I want to be in the show. So he's like, you will be standing in the show. So he made us as offstage covers part of the sort of scenery, which was quite lovely to then be on the stage. And then, of course, I got to go on a couple of times when Peter was ill. And so the the trickle down effect. Everybody shifted up. It was our first preview, and they said, "Hey, you're on," and I'm like, "What?"
I had forgotten that. But yeah. No, I remember we shared a very tiny dressing room.
Very tiny dressing, and I learned so much about you and other people, and I still decided to go into the business.
See. Well, first of all, I have to say it's not snowing in Manhattan. In fact, it's 52 degrees. So what a difference 2 hours to the north makes.
It's weird. It's very weird. And it's sunny. Yes.
In fact, it's so warm in our apartment here that we've got all the windows open. So that's what happens in Manhattan apartments, as you all probably know. But yes, that production was my third time as Frederick Egerman. And
beautiful
it was
show.
My favorite production of all of them. And
really?
And I think that's maybe my favorite role. So
you were fantastic. And I'm not just saying that because you're the host of this show, but it was a thrill.
I pulled this off the wall. See, there's Beth McVeigh and I on the front cover of the tourist guide,
absolutely,
which was sort of fun. But that was up on the wall in our office, and I guess it needed a dusting, so I brought it down and brought down a visual aid. But no, it was a beautiful production, and Worth Gardner this is the second week in a row that he was spoken of. For those of you who, yes, someone who I did another Worth Gardner show with, Man of La Mancha, Kurt Johns, was on last week. And Doug, you would have enjoyed this because he does the most uncanny impersonation of Worth speaking.
Oh, does he really?
He was just saying, and then Worth said this, and as the words poured out of his mouth, he became Worth Gardner. And it was quite uncanny. We had to tell our viewers, if you were not privileged enough to work with this true Renaissance man, that he was he did everything, and he had a group of actors that just loved to work with him.
Absolutely.
And his productions were some of the most creative and energizing productions I've ever been involved with. So
and Scott Woolley, who was that
dear Scott Woolley,
rest in peace, the music director, who was just, he made that music. I mean, it's already beautiful music, but oh my gosh, he brought this small ensemble and they sounded like a huge orchestra.
Yeah. We lost Scott Woolley. I guess it was over a year ago now, but he was part of the ensemble that Worth worked with all the time. So we were so glad to have you as part of the ensemble. So we'll get to what you've done since then very soon, but I want to ask Randy the same question. How did we meet?
We have done so many things together, but I think the first thing, if I'm not mistaken, was 2004 when we did Singing in the Rain together at the Hard Rock Seminole.
Yes.
You came in. Is that correct? Is that the first thing?
Absolutely.
We did. I did a ton of readings before that. And then after the Seminole, we've done a ton of things. But we did that production initially. We kicked off the Broadway on the Boardwalk run in Atlantic City at the now departed Trump Plaza on the boardwalk. So we opened that, ran it there, very, very successful. And then we picked up the production and took it down. And we were the first major production at the Seminole Hard Rock. We were actually on the Seminole Indian Reservation. You remember when we showed up, they said, oh, you need to be aware that when we go to the hotel, we are no longer in the United States. You are on the Seminole Indian Reservation. So those rules apply. And
I do remember that, but I'm asking for my passport as I hit the 10th floor.
We are, it was great. It was great. And you came in, you were a replacement in you did the film director, and then in that production, everybody did everything. So Steve Steiner, who produced that, asked me to do the production in Atlantic City, and I was still on tour with the producers. That's right.
But I was supposed to go to, when I left the producers, I was about to direct Showboat for Steve at Surflight, and he said, well, we need someone to replace in Singing in the Rain. And boy, was that a that was a cushy job. It was a brand new hotel. For those of you who don't know the space that Randy is talking about, it is the infamous hotel where Anna Nicole Smith passed away down.
Whoa.
Yes. Yeah. But it was a beautiful complex. It was the first time they did a stage show in the showroom where we worked. And they had never hung theater lights on the ceiling before, and they were kind of heavy. We had a week to put it together, and during that week, a hurricane hit. So they had to take everything down again because they were afraid of the integrity of the roof. But luckily, we opened on time. And as I recall, we had a rather lavish opening night party that Debbie Reynolds attended, and where we all drove onto the dance floor in antique cars, and they had buffets everywhere, and the film of Singing in the Rain was running on 4 screens.
Oh my God, how amazing.
Well, it was a lavish party, and I hope Steve will forgive me for saying so, but this was a lot more lavish than the show itself. We were working with recorded music, and
we spent more money on the party than we did on the show. We absolutely did.
I remember it. Yeah. But it was a great night, and we spent had a nice long run there, and we had a lot of time to be in the pool and at the bars, and it was a fun time.
The swimming pool had a water slide.
Yeah.
Every time we had a bad day, my dear friend Jill Slider, if we'd had a bad day or a bad afternoon, we would look at each other and go, how bad can this be? The pool has a water slide. So,
I love that.
Yes.
You remember the first day, the first time we walked into the ballroom, we got off the plane, got into the hotel, dropped our bags, went downstairs and looked at the ballroom, and they had, like you said, had literally dropped the grid to the stage. So we couldn't rehearse. We were absolutely got in under the hurricane warning. So we vamped for at least 3 or 4 days coming in, because we could, luckily, except for you, we had to put you and a couple of other folks in the show. Everybody else had done the show, but we literally can't rehearse because the lighting grid is sitting on the stage. So we rehearsed a little bit in front of the stage, and then eventually we took over one of the big ballrooms and tried to tape the floor out, but you can't really dance. I remember we rehearsed the ballet over and over and over again, and we can't really dance the ballet. So all we did was kind of work on the hands, and probably in my entire career, that's the cleanest the hand choreography has ever been in a dance number in my life. That's all we could do. So eventually, 2 or 3, after a couple of hours, and the producers felt the need to make the actors work. So that's what we did. We would go and run through all the scenes. And then eventually, after the hurricane passed, we flew the grid out and then quickly kind of slammed everybody into it. But do you remember Debbie Reynolds was there for opening night, like you said?
That's so great.
Yeah, she sat in the front row, and she, when the audience was a little slow in applauding, she got up on our playing space and said, "Come on, they worked their asses off."
We had a pin spot on her the whole time. She sat literally 10 feet from the stage with a little dim pin spot on her. And Margot, oh my gosh, who played her role in the stage version. It's the most courageous thing I've ever seen an actress play in my life, because you're playing the role she played in the movie, and there she is in a pin spot 12 feet away from you watching everything. And Margot was brilliant. So, yeah.
Well, I have something sort of to compare with that, because a few years ago I did a review off Broadway that was a musical review based on the works of Ionesco, called Ionescopade. And the opening number, 3 of us came out, and I was the rhinoceros, and I was wearing a green top hat with a horn coming out. And I had a trio with the bald soprano who was singing obligatos and, of course, had a bald pate on. And I forget what the other character was, but it was another. And all I know is my lyrics to this entire trio were "gur gur 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 gur." I didn't have to worry about learning the words too much. But opening night, Eli Wallach, who played that part on Broadway, or the rhinoceros in the straight play version, was sitting about 3 feet away from my face, and I thought, this is maybe one of the more embarrassing things that I've ever done on stage. And he passed away shortly after that. So I hope that wasn't what caused it. But
great job, David.
So Doug, so our first experience together was obviously a classic musical, a wonderful musical. And you left a whole other career to pursue acting.
Yes.
I was looking at your background again, and you've had quite a quite a journey. And now looking at the bulk of the work that you've been doing recently, I know you still do theater, but you've done so much film and TV work.
Right.
So how can you describe a little bit of your journey from your original career and then coming to New York and doing all that?
Absolutely. And before I do, I have to ask Randy Lawson, where in Tennessee are you, Randy?
I'm in East Tennessee. I'm in Knoxville right now. So
you are, because I'm from Nashville.
Are you really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, we have to talk. We have to talk. Yeah, I lived in Nashville.
But here it is.
Here we are. I know. Here we are. I lived in Nashville for after I graduated from the University of Tennessee. A bunch of us moved to Nashville and founded what became Tennessee Repertory Theater. Oh, I was with the first company with them. And I worked the first stage management gig. My training was acting and directing. I worked with the Clarence Brown Company when I was an undergraduate. So I moved, when we all moved to Nashville, I got my first gig at Opryland. So I talked this
is blowing my mind. My partner, who's downstairs, worked at Opryland in the 90s, and my mother was in a production directed by
George Melanie.
David. I'm sorry, you're David Edwards. Directed by Michael Edwards. Michael Edwards.
Yes, Michael Edwards, of course.
And he of Hot L Baltimore for Tennessee Rep.
Wow. Yes, I did. What did I do? Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, Hamlet, Midsummer Night's Dream, a whole bunch of shows. Yeah, we were the founding company. We had the old rehearsal hall. Do you remember? You know where the baseball stadium is? Dave, we'll get back to you in a second. We're catching up.
I'm sorry.
We rented out the old sock factory over next to where the baseball stadium was. And they renovated that. We put the walls in. We created the whole space over there. So that was all UT folks. And then, at Opryland, the first show I taught, God gave me two great gifts in life as a person. He gave me the gift of BS, that I can talk anybody into anything and convince them that I can do anything in the world. And he didn't make me very smart. So I'm not smart enough to be scared by anything. So that has gotten me into.
You're a real piece of trouble, actually.
Oh my gosh, it's gotten me into so many. Sure, I can do that. Absolutely. You show up on Monday morning and go, oh my God. Oh my God, what am I? And then you figure it out. So Opryland was like that. I had background in directing, and the first show that I stage managed was the biggest show in the history of Opryland. The first year of music.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I showed up. Sure, I can do that. 22 in the cast, musical, 12-piece orchestra, 20-piece crew, $1 million production. Absolutely. Show up the first morning and go, oh my God. Oh,
David, you have to understand the productions at Opryland were just shy of Broadway. They were unbelievable. And a lot of people, Faith Hill, Kristen Chenoweth, the list goes on, started at Opryland, or certainly had a stint at
That was when I met Kristen in New York the first time. We were working on one of the early workshops of Lippa's The Wild Party.
Oh, okay.
And so the first time I met her, we literally held rehearsal for like 10 minutes while we did 30 minutes of Who Do You Know at Opryland. Exactly like this. So
and this happens with in the business. But I could take a potty break while you guys.
We're going to catch up. How long is the show, David?
It might be a little longer today, even though we're down.
This is awesome. It's not even 6 degrees. I love Nashville.
People don't shut up. Yeah.
This is, I'm sure our audience enjoys this because this is, as we often say, there are only 3 people in this business. So even if you don't know each other, by the end of a broadcast like this, you do, because we know 12 people that, but I had a feeling that, both of you guys having roots in that part of the country would,
of course.
I love it. We'll talk.
Absolutely. Well, so let me go back to your question. Yeah. I started. I went to college in Memphis, Tennessee, Rhodes College, and then I went to art school in Atlanta to develop a portfolio as an advertising art director, and that eventually led me to Minneapolis, where I lived and worked for 15 years, and did the Minneapolis to Chicago AIDS ride in 1996, and literally had an epiphany on the top of a hill. And decided life is too short. If a bus ran me over, I would say, wait, there's something else I want to do, which is theater, because I had done it all through college, and then I never considered it as a career. It was just a hobby. And so that AIDS ride sort of put things in place. So 2 years after that, I walked into my boss's office and quit. And he said, whenever you want one of these, and he held a $1 bill, just let me know. And so 3 weeks later, I was doing my first equity show at the Ordway in St. Paul. And then after that, I did Forever Plaid, where I met my partner, and we've been together now for 22 years. And so we, I'm trying to drape the mic outside your collar. Absolutely. I'm so sorry. Let's see here.
Yeah, we get a little
scratchiness.
Right. Yeah.
About that. Is that better? Is there maybe less scratch now?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, and it looks great. So basically, I try to make this relatively short. So pursued theater with a vengeance in Minneapolis, and worked pretty much everywhere except the Guthrie. Wanted to work there, called back, but anyway. Worked a ton at Chanhassen Dinner Theater. That's where I really cut my teeth. And then, of course, at the Ordway many times. And Minneapolis is full of so much amazing theater. And then realized I wanted to be on Broadway. So I can now reveal this. At age 40, Billy and I packed up and left Minneapolis to go to New York. And I fortunately didn't look 40 because we went to a party. I'll never forget a friend of mine who became a friend of mine saying, well, I mean, it'd be ridiculous if anybody would ever move here when they were 40. I'm like, oh, absolutely. I mean, who would ever do something like that? And basically have been here ever since, and then bought a house up here several years ago while Billy was doing the Annie tour, and I was having a very successful voiceover gig. So we called this the house that Annie and Quest built. And then I then started doing lots of theater, and like so many of us in New York, was getting most of my work out of town. And Flat Rock Playhouse, so many places, not just in the South, but, you know, kind of around Adirondack Theater Festival, Barnstormers, just lots of regional gigs, Theater by the Sea, where I did the producers and got to play my dream role, Leo Bloom, which was amazing. Then I did the thing that was a real breakthrough for me is I got cast in Silence the Musical off Broadway. And so then that was a game changer for me.
So I mean, I don't want to interrupt your flow, but so how did you come in later in the run? The reason I'm asking is because I auditioned for it initially.
Oh, okay.
And because one of the producers was Rich Affanami.
Oh, Rich.
Your departed Rich.
Absolutely.
And he said, you know, you have to come in.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell you what the title is because we're keeping it under wraps. And
right.
I was given a song about devouring a certain part of someone's body. And the part went to David Garrison, actually, although they liked me. I think they wanted a TV name, and David is, of course, wonderful. And but then when I saw that you were doing it later, I thought, when did you?
So the same time David did, they hired David, Topher Nuccio, Pamela Bob, and myself. David replaced Brent Barrett as because they had gone. The show first was done in the Fringe Festival, and it was a massive hit. And then there was like a 4-year break while they were, you know, trying to get the funds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it was produced at Theater 80 off Broadway, like kind of in the St. Mark's area, you know, on the East Village. And then it was extended kept getting extended like a few more months. And then they put a break in it. And then they opened it at PS 122 off Broadway. And when they did that, they hired David, and then they hired a guy to replace Jeff Hiller because he had moved to LA. And then they brought in a male and female swing. And so here I go. Life kind of circular. I'm now the male swing. But unlike A Little Night Music, this was 6 days, 8 shows a week, 6 days a week, open-ended run. And I was brought in to cover 4 men or 3 men and ended up covering 5 and went on all the time. And that was the hardest job I've ever had. But consequently, that's when I started booking TV and film, because I was working with people who were like the David Garrisons, Christopher, who was our gorgeous choreographer director who we were doing the show when he won the Tony as the choreographer for Newsies. Of course, Jen Harris is an amazing comedian, actress, and just incredible people. And and then I ended up understudying David, and then I got to play the role for a few weeks. I got to play Hannibal Lecter, so I got to be that guy, which was really fun because I'm a real character guy. And I do shows where I play 10 different parts. So to get to play everything from the goofy sort of Gomer Pyle-esque to Hannibal Lecter was a real stretch, and was thrilling. And it literally seeded my TV and film career, because all of a sudden my confidence just went through the roof. So that's really when I started.
Because New York actors who do primarily theater, myself included, we're always saying we don't get seen enough for film and TV. And because there's such a huge talent pool in New York, you get placed in one or the other. And so it really is no small accomplishment, especially at that point in your career, to have been able to break in. And we're actually going to show a little bit of your work on this. I believe you've done things like Mr. Robot, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, 30 Rock, The Affair. I think this clip that we have is a little something from Broad City that I did myself. So why don't we take a look at that?
And be the most passionate saying cherish, about their dog.
Well, so, you went there.
I was there. I went there. There are no small parts, so you just do what you can.
Well, it's great. I was really excited to see your list of film and TV credits that you did. I mean, it's been many years since we saw each other in St. Paul, and I love having guests on that I can see their progress in their careers and that they're still there. And I might add that your the scenario that you have behind you with a medical diploma is great if you're going to do a self-tape to play a doctor. So file that away, because
I did a scene the other night in my class in which I did the scene from the pilot of Mad Men, the gynecologist who checks out Peggy Olson. So that's why there are, we think of all the right things to have. So thank you for noticing that. Absolutely.
All right. Well, you didn't have any other props or any other actors doing anything at the gynecologist's office, though.
No, just a reader on Zoom.
because as I said before, Privates on Parade is not an instruction for today's broadcast. But now, Randy, I have to share with our audience a couple of the other projects that we did together, because most recently we did a production of 39 Steps, which
loved it. One of my favorite experiences ever. Loved it.
Which I think was my second. I don't know whether you remember, but they
all your second or your first, because everybody else had done the show and you came in. I thought it was your first time through.
Oh, maybe, because then I did it the following year with a lot of they weren't the same people, but they were people that worked with the people we worked with.
Oh, I love it. I love
it. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It's funny when you do shows multiple times, all of the casts run together, and sometimes you talk to someone and say, oh, remember when we did this, and remember so and so, and they say, I have no idea who you're talking about. But we had a great time with that. But I'm thinking of another project that was a very quick piece that I was pulling double duty on. I was directing as well as appearing as a performer. It was a 4-person review, and it was a sequel to a show I had done off Broadway many years before called Bittersweet Songs of Experience, not SWEET. It's more SUITE, as in a suite of rooms or a suite of songs. So it was a long-running show off Broadway that I was part of the New York cast and did the album and all of that. And the writers, several years later, wrote kind of a sequel to this song cycle. And we were engaged to do this at a short run out at Centenary Stage in New Jersey. And I had a stage manager on board. It was very flying by the seat of your pants because we had 1 week to rehearse it and I think 2 weeks of run. A lot of dense, difficult music for these performers to learn. And I was wearing 2 hats. So it was a little difficult. And we lost our stage manager 1 day before we were supposed to go into rehearsal. Oh. So, of course, I remembered Randy when someone said, you find out if Randy Lawson is available because he can do everything. And little did you know, because we were rehearsing without a stage manager at a studio downtown. And you walked in and said, yeah, I'll do it. And I thought, this guy doesn't know what he's getting into, because we also had no lighting designer. And you, during the tech, did the lighting design as well as ran the tech rehearsal as stage manager. And that was a gargantuan task. And the show looked great from what I could tell. I mean, I was on stage, so I don't know. But from what I've seen of the pictures, you did a great job with both in both capacities. But you just did it. And that was amazing.
I go back to what I said initially, that God didn't make me smart enough to be scared by anything. So I would say,
or smart enough to say, no, I can't do it.
I'll do it. But, and you remember, it was, I thought it was going to be a lot simpler, as you said, and we showed up and I thought it was going to be basically lights up, lights down. We'd have 5 looks, have a couple of specials. I walked in the door, the tech director had the whole palette, 2 follow spots, 25 different looks, everything. So it's like, well, okay, I guess I'm going to design a show here. So what's your best look? What's the best moment of the show? All right, we'll take that and then give colors and add things to it. And at the end, you were great though, because I would like do a look and then I would do, David, step out and look at this. And you would like take your hat off and you would look at it and go, yeah, that's good. And we kind of moved on and lit this entire show in the 3-hour tech.
It was amazing.
Yeah, the funny thing I remember about that, this will drive you crazy because it drove you crazy at the moment, but as a term of endearment without thinking, I kept calling you Dave during the production, which you really, I can see the reaction because you really hate that, to be called Dave. And so in the middle, Dave, take a look, Dave, take a step to the right. Yeah, see, and so it was like that. And the cast knew this, and the cast was just beside themselves, snickering through the whole thing. And I'm just trying to light the show. What's wrong with Dave? And it's like, he hates being called Dave. His name is David. And it's like, so then I knew it needled you. So for the rest of the run, I would call you Dave just to kind of get you. But I apologize for that now and apologize for that then. That was a wonderful experience. So that was actually quite fun to create a lighting plot on the fly. You remember, and you gave me a phone call. You remember what happened as a result of that. I got the credit for the lighting design, and then later on that year, the Broadway World Awards came out, and guess who got a nomination for Best Lighting Design?
Yeah, we actually all got nominations.
We did. It was amazing.
And we won Best New Work.
We did. We won everything.
Right.
I think Beth Thompson, who was who actually said, you know, you have to get Randy Lawson. He's she won Best Actress in a Musical.
She was great.
But the amazing thing about the Broadway World Awards is that we were in a small black box theater.
Right.
And we only ran 2 weekends. And if all the people who voted for Beth Thompson for that role were actually in those seats, we still would have been running.
Exactly.
So I'm just gonna leave it there. And
but it was very successful. We had a good crowd. We had a good run.
Yeah. We're still trying to do it elsewhere because it's a good piece. So.
Oh, call me. I have the lighting plot somewhere.
Oh, good. Okay.
And
all right.
Beth also, I did not know. I did not connect with Beth, but I know her husband, Sean McCourt.
Yes.
I never connected until the second day, but Sean and I did a hugely popular show at Goodspeed, Honky Tonk Highway, that we ran for 6 months at Chester. Michael Price loved the show. I mean, pathologically loved the show. And we kept extending it until we couldn't extend it anymore. And then he wanted to bring it back and put it on the main stage. And then after that, I did Sean's one-man show. So Sean and I are like best friends. And I come in and suddenly I walked in the rehearsal hall and it's like walking into a tornado. So it's like, oh, okay. And then by the second day, I figured, oh, Beth and Sean, of course. So
yeah. Well, Beth.
Tiny world.
I've done King Arthur and Camelot several times, and she was my Guinevere once.
I love her to death. She's great.
And Sean, I did What's a Nice Country Like You, doing an estate like this off Broadway with him.
Wow.
We were the 10th revival of that show, and
wow.
It was a topical review where you have to have topical material. And during our previews, the show kept getting shorter because they kept cutting material and the writers were busy with other projects, so they couldn't write new material. And we had a very long preview period during which the producers decided, well, we're just going to throw in the towel. So we never opened. But it was... It was an interesting experience. It was the longest run of previews and opening that I had ever experienced. And there was a point too where all of us, there were only 5 of us in the cast, we all became ill with some kind of crud. And in addition to giving you a high fever and making you feel generally lousy, it prevented you from emitting any sound at all. So, and we had no understudies at this point, so they were canceling shows, and but we had to get back because the producers were upset that they had to give all the money back for these previews that were never going anywhere anyway. But at one point, one of our young ladies went on mouthing her lyrics while the director sat in the front row and sang everything for her. So this is what we do when the show must go on.
The show must go on.
Amen.
Yeah, hurricanes and no lighting design and and covering 18 people in silence.
Yeah, right.
Sure, we can do that. No problem.
Yeah. No, so Randy, you sent me a wonderful clip that it's rather lengthy, but it is worth watching, especially for those of you who have no idea what a stage manager does in the course of a performance. Now, this is a performance of a Gentleman's Guide that you were doing when the shutdown occurred last year, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. This we got we lost the last weekend. Broadway shut down on a Wednesday afternoon. We did our Wednesday evening show and then got closing notice the next afternoon. Yeah. So,
well, this is a very interesting clip because it's kind of a time lapse of, I think, sort of the entire performance.
This is Act 1. Yeah. So it matches up with the action. You see the calling and you see the action on stage. So you can sort of see behind the curtain of what the magic is of calling a show.
Well, we're going to show this to our audience. And for those of you who have never been backstage and seen what a stage manager does during a performance, I think you'll find this very interesting. So let's watch Randy Lawson at work.
Places for the top of the show, everyone. Places. Lights 7, curtain up, go.
Lights 9, go. Lights 11, go. Lights 11.9. Go. 13. Go. 13. Go. Lights 27, curtain, go. Lights 29. Lights 57 and curtain. Go. Lights 135.
Yes, of course, my lord.
Go.
Foolish to think I could let him fall. He's on the brink. It seems.
Stand by 137.
I should pause when I know the cause
137.
Mother's shattered dream.
Go. 139. Go.
What can I do for the dice with?
Go. Stand by 249, 250, 249. Go. 250. Go. 263. Go. 265. Go. Stand by 314.
Lion is not only stupid, he is vulgar.
Let's not discuss your honeymoon, shall we?
314.
No.
Go. 315. Go. 316. Go.
Now he can mimic princely fashion.
Stand by 317. Curtain in. I'll call these together.
Everything he desires. I must go.
Let's see you again.
Of course, some moody spare.
Go. Go.
Some might have thought him unsuitable.
329.
What caused him to change?
Go.
Slightly, slightly too comfort me.
331.
He's the lost of goodness man.
Go. Stand by curtain 333. I'll call them together. Curtain 333.
Seats still available.
Go. Go.
He's to be mine and believe. While his virtue and morty
363.
lost on goodness.
Go.
After the tragic demise of Lady Salome, the sudden death of Lord
Stand by 365.9. 71. Go. 372. Go. 373. Go. Stand by on the curtain. Lights 375. Go.
So 375. So that's 375 light cues in one act.
In Act 1, yes, that's correct. So there were probably 600 cues totally in the show, and probably 450 of them were called, I would think. So I talk a lot. So
well, you also have the hands of a conductor.
Well, yeah, I kind of do. It kind of helps with the timing of it. I kind of come from the performance end of it, so it kind of gives me a flow and a rhythm with calling the piece and trying to hit it musically. I actually started doing that in tech about 10 years ago, because the people would sit in the back and I would call the cue and they would see the cue happening late. So it was like, when are you calling the cue? And it sort of became a thing so that the lighting designer could see when the go was happening. So we could determine, oh, he's calling it correctly, the timing is wrong on the cue, or he's calling it incorrectly, we need to adjust it. And I get into I'm an actor basically, and I come from the performance end. So that's the fun part of stage management, actually still doing the performance. Opening night is great fun. You know, you work on a project and all of these marvelous people build this $1 million airplane. And on opening night, you get the keys. You get to fly the plane. It's great. So you still have that excitement of opening night every night, just like you do as an actor. And yeah, I talk a lot. I have a bottle of water and some cough drops. Cough drops on the console. The occupational hazard for a stage manager is losing your voice, which I've had happen a couple of times. And that is, you know, if I can't talk, you know, it slows the process down. And that one, some shows, this one for Gentleman's God, most of the cues were called. If you get other big musicals, it gets more crazy because you're also basically calling light cues and sound cues, and then rail cues, actor cues, and anything else that moves on the deck are with cue lights. So you have a panel of cue lights going on. So not only are you calling cues, you're also giving warnings and standbys for people to come by. So it becomes a lot of this as you go through the process. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I have to, for that clip, I have to thank Mike Wood, who is an extraordinary lighting designer. His crew, Dalton and Abby, are like some of the best I've ever worked with. And he thought it would be very cool to film a little bit of that to give people a sense of what happens backstage. A disclaimer on that, though, that's a little rough in terms of what was going on there, because that was first dress. So what has happened is I've been sitting in the house with the lighting designer, watching the show and building the cue. So then all of a sudden, for the first time, you go backstage and it is a totally different perspective. There are things that you can't see, and I have cameras. Basically, I have a conductor cam, I have a front of house cam, I have an infrared cam. In good scenarios, I have a bird's eye view cam, so I can look straight down on the stage and watch the scene changes happening. And so there's one sequence there where you can never, it's a Zen thing. You have to stay in the moment for 2 hours, always looking at the same thing, trying to stay in the rhythm of the show. And there's one sequence in there where the red lights come on. And I'm sitting there thinking, that was an awesome cue sequence. You did that really good. Where did these red lights come from? That's never happened before. Go! Okay, so you have to, like, literally, it's an exercise in Zen concentration. But that's kind of the fun part of stage managing. All of the administrative part gets you to being able to do 8 performances a day. And it's a fun show. That and like 39 Steps also, shows like that, the stage manager really is like another performer on stage, because you're driving the flow, you're driving the rhythm, you're watching what the actors do on stage, and you're trying to match everything. And if things go well, no one knows the stage manager actually exists. It's the magic of the theater. No one knows you're there unless something screws up, and then
actors know you're there, thank God.
Yeah. I mean, the actors know, and the director depends on you tremendously to run the show. And, you know, actors, once you get to the one point and you think, oh, you know, my creativity is over, a director to a certain extent, and then hands it over to you. But the concentration and the intensity that you bring to it, and the joy, is really a great thing for people to see, because there's not a whole lot of you don't get any applause at the end of the show. So.
Well, I tell the crew that I always make a point to tell the crew that those standing ovations, those are for us too, and you should know that, and you should appreciate that. Without the crew, you basically have a lot of naked actors standing in the dark. They kind of like put everything together, and the lights. The lighting designer comes in and it's $500,000 worth of light bulbs hanging in the air. They don't do anything, and it's really the stage manager and the crew that make it all sing. So yes, you get your own satisfaction from it. So I tell everybody those standing ovations are for you to appreciate those and enjoy them. You earned them as much as anybody.
Absolutely.
Well, we're looking forward to getting you back there at that call station very, very soon. So
I can't wait. I think I may cry the first time I get to call places for the top of the show again.
Oh,
it's going to be amazing.
I understand. I think we all will, but really, it's amazing what's been happening the last couple of weeks in the feeling of optimism and hope. Because last year around this time, we thought, oh, well, maybe a couple of weeks, couple of months at the most, and here we are. And but Doug, you've been busy still doing some film and TV things, have you not? Or
well, quite honestly, no, not that much. I mean, 2019 was a really good year for me as far as booking a lot of TV and film. And so some of the things that I did in 2019 then bled over into last year as far as, airing. So therefore it still felt like I was working. As I was telling Tony earlier when we were getting set up, I was a little late for our, sort of rehearsal kind of thing here, because I was doing a self-tape in the garage with my partner. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And it seems like, but the business, at least for TV and film, is definitely coming back big time. The whole adjustment to taping in your own home is very weird. I crave being able to, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but to actually be able to walk into a casting director's office and go, tell me what to do, because so much of the business, we bring what we know how to do. But I pride myself on being a person who takes adjustments really well and then delivers right away. And especially for TV and film, you have to do that. And as you know, and for stage, especially in the audition process, you got to be so facile and boom, 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 boom. And okay, try it this way. And that's great. Okay, next, when you're doing it all yourself, you're like, was that good? I don't know. So you don't have that instant sort of correction, and therefore you can spend way too much time kind of literally self-editing, and it just, it's so boring.
No, I understand. And as a director, it's really hard to understand how you're going to be working with this person in a room when they're not there, from a self-tape. It's you want to get that rapport and that give and take and see how they respond.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say, and I've said this before on this program, that we're learning this technology even better than we used to, and hopefully in moving forward, we'll have more ways to use it that will be helpful rather than a hindrance. So
absolutely. I think to that point, my other life, which I still have to do, is advertising, because when you're not working on the stage or on TV and film, you got to make money. And but the technology has made us be able to literally work from home, but also now to be able to do things as far as in our field. Like I'm on my 5th season of an animated TV show that I do, and I am doing all the recording here from home. The producers sent me I already had a good mic and stuff, but they sent me, I'm looking at them right now, these, foam walls and all the sound blankets and stuff. So I create my own.
You're in a padded room.
I'm in a padded cell.
A year of
that's right.
shutdown. You're in a padded room. Yeah.
That's right.
The whole lecture is
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but it is, that's kind of the silver lining is getting to figure out, hey, wait a minute, maybe I can do this at home and not have to, take the train and go into a studio or something like that.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I know the first few times that I had to do something like this, the technology wasn't quite what it is now, and the internet, and there was a time lag with the dialogue, and I thought my timing was all off, and I couldn't stop looking at my face, going, "What do I really look like?" So now I'm used to it, because every Sunday I get to do a little show here with 2 or 3 other people, and you let that go.
Absolutely.
So that's great. We become more comfortable in this environment. We are getting to the point where we take our little intermission.
Okay.
Today, the intermission feature is going to be, I didn't even know I had this until yesterday, Randy. You may recognize this song because it is a song from that show, Bittersweet, the sequel. I forget what we call it, the Endless Song or More Songs of Experience. I don't remember exactly what but it's Bittersweet Part 2. So this is just an audio clip. So this is a good time for all of you out there if you need to refresh your drink, or go to the gents or the ladies, or just if you need a break from looking at our faces here for a minutes, you can turn the sound up and still hear it. It's an interesting song written by Elliot Weiss, the composer, and Michael Champagne, the lyricist. But before we play that, our quiz question this week is, there are 2 musical theater performers, rather prominent ones, who for differing reasons turned down a Tony nomination. Can you name them? So you guys can think about that. And our audience, I have some usual suspects who will pop up, and of course they will know them. But I hope that will open up the conversation to a little musical theater history here. So let's think on that. And in the meantime, let's listen to this song from Bittersweet Part 2. And you may recognize one of the singers on it.
So long ago, I'll never know what I did wrong to make you hate me. You never said so much in words, but still I felt it anyhow. But tell me, why does it matter now?
I was a fool to give myself to anyone who couldn't love me. So like a statue, hard and cold, but in my youth I didn't see. But tell me, why does it matter now? I was the best, I gave it all, why didn't they all know it? I stood there right before their eyes. They turned away and didn't see, they never offered me the prize.
When I was young, I had a plan, I was my own, I made my own way without help. I didn't want or need a man. Relationships were better left before entanglements began. Why don't I want to take a bow? Why does it matter anyhow?
Okay, I know we'll never be a son and dad like Norman Rockwell. Why can't I find a little peace and just retreat to my own ground? Tell me, why is it I still bleed?
You're just the same, a handsome stone, a diamond mind without much feeling. You draw me in, although I know there is no love that we can share. And I don't know why I was done, I gave it all. Some accolade or mention can't be the sum of who I am. It's something I will not allow. It simply doesn't matter now.
So here's to me. I have my place, I have my pride, my friggin' satisfaction. So here's to Will and here's to Nerve. And here's to no one there to kiss. I said I didn't want a man. And so I guess I got my wish. But tell me why it matters now.
The water under bridges in the past can't wash away a bitter ending. Can't help to ease a restless soul who only wants to make it right. You can't go back, you can't relive a single moment of regret. You can't renew, you can't rescind, you can't restore, and even yet you find yourself reliving time, sincerely hoping that you get one final chance to clear the score, to save the day that changed the bet. And all the while you tell yourself, don't be a fool, just let it go. But then you know you can't go forward, can't go back, recapture or relinquish. So will someone tell me why does it matter? Why does it matter now?
Yes, why does it matter now? Well, I'm not sure, but I'll tell you what does matter now is that I will answer the quiz question with the help of. Do you guys have the answer? We had two Uber fans and past guests here that both got it right.
I know one of the answers.
Yeah.
I think I know one. Marlon Brando has never done Broadway, has he?
Well, he did, but I didn't.
I was joking that he might have turned one down, but
no, he did Streetcar on Broadway, and most notably, and I think other things as well. But these are both theater actors.
Did he win the Tony for Streetcar?
I think he may have.
Yeah.
But these two answers are musical theater actors. Doug is nodding. What's your answer, Doug?
I only know one of the two. Shall I say?
Sure.
Julie Andrews.
Yeah. As Michael Colby pointed out, she made a speech saying that because everybody else in the show was not recognized, that they would be egregiously overlooked.
That's it.
So, and Donna Murphy won for the revival of King and I that year. So she became a two-time Tony winner because of. I'm not to say that she definitely wouldn't have won anyway, but with Julie out of the running, the other was William Daniels for 1770.
Really.
The reason being, he was in his mind, and as he quite correctly felt, he was the leading actor, but he was nominated in supporting category. And this is because the ruling was that if you were billed below the title, you were a supporting player. And so he was adamant about it. I've played that part. It is definitely, you don't leave the stage. You are on the entire time, John Adams.
Oh my God.
So he withdrew, and his cast mate, Ron Holgate, won the award for supporting that year. So the Tony rules for which category have been adamant about certain things over the years, but they've also been weirdly flexible. The year that Chorus Line was up against Chicago, Gwen Verdon and Chita Rivera were up for leading ladies, and of course they were above the title. And Donna McKechnie was billed below alphabetically with the rest of the cast, and yet she was in that category and won. And as we discussed a few weeks ago, Tammy Grimes was the one and only leading lady of the unsinkable Molly Brown, but because the billing was with Tammy Grimes, she was in the supporting category. And I believe Chita Rivera was in for Bye Bye Birdie initially. I think her billing was elevated to above the title as the show ran, but that's the way things worked. And William Daniels didn't get his statuette because he decided he was a leading man rather than a supporting player. So
and thank God he did the film.
Right. Yes, that's one of the most faithful film adaptations of a Broadway musical. And in fact, in a way, it has some of the cast members that were not in the original cast were in the film. Most notably, John Cullum. He was a replacement on Broadway, so his performance is preserved. And also, the interesting thing is that the original Ben Franklin, who also was the original Judd Fry in Oklahoma, was out with a heart problem, and his understudy did the cast album. So when he came, Howard Da Silva is the gentleman, and of course when he was able to do the movie. So we had his understudy's performance and the original performance preserved.
Fantastic.
So those are the things I just
of course
love.
I love that show.
And Doug, speaking of a little night music, that William Daniels replaced Len Cariou in the role that I played, Frederick.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's the musical theater trivia moment. Yes, Michael Colby knew Rex Everhart and Howard Da Silva. Yes, and Tom Bosley was also nominated as a supporting actor for Fiorello, even though he was the title character. Doug, I know you haven't, because none of us have been doing much musical theater lately, but you played a role that was on my bucket list. And of course, I've had to turn it down twice for other conflicts. And now, we begin to wonder whether we'll ever get to do it. But you got to do Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady not long ago.
I did. And first of all, yes, you need to do it. Someone just you're perfect. You're absolutely perfect for it. It was my partner Billy and I had dear friends who there's a connection there to Worth.
This is kind of why I brought it up, because
okay.
John Carroll was on this show a few weeks back.
Okay. Well then, there you go. Don and Judy and Cindy have this wonderful theater in Indianapolis, Carmel, Indiana, Actors Theater of Indiana, and they've survived the pandemic. They've survived, very beginning of not having a physical space and going from sort of country club to, women's club to wherever the show can put itself. And my partner Billy has done Forbidden Broadway with them numbers of times and directed Xanadu and various other shows. But yeah, they called me and said, "Hey, we want you to consider playing Henry Higgins." And I was like, "What? You do? Oh, that's amazing." And it's, as actors, especially as a character actor, you often say, "Well, I played Vice Principal Douglas Pench in Spelling Bee, ad nauseum. I played Mervyn Oglethorpe in every iteration of Smoke on the Mountain. So it's like there are these certain kinds of iconic types of roles. They're like, sure, no problem. Henry Higgins, I never really thought about it. Well, I had an absolute. I see it. And I see it now, but because of being smart and stuff. But I'm more of a singer than So oftentimes speaking of Julie Andrews, Rex Harrison, is of course is Henry Higgins, and you think of being such a speak singer and stuff, but that role, it doesn't matter. You can sing as much of it as you want or not as much as you want, and it was the hardest. It was even harder than playing everybody in Silence the Musical, because I'm, as a character actor, you're generally, and you're just talking about this with supporting, you're not leading the show, you're supporting. And my favorite thing is to come in and go, "Hey," make them laugh, and then go off stage, and then, work a crossword puzzle and come back in, and they're like, "Who's that guy? We want him back on." But Henry Higgins pretty much never leaves the stage. And because I think so oftentimes we think My Fair Lady, it's Eliza, it's she's got this glorious, but he drives that show.
Yeah.
And so it was a great lesson for me. The director, Richard Roberts, who's this wonderful theater director in Indianapolis, who does a lot for IRT, the rep theater there. They brought him in, and he was like, "Doug, you need to stop thinking that you're a character actor and you're supporting. You are driving this show, so drive the show. I was like, okay, you know, and to be given permission to basically just go there as an actor was at first kind of daunting, and then it was like, absolutely. And so it was thrilling. And ATI, as do so many shows now, I love that you were showing Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. That they did that show. That's one of those shows that I would, you know, another like bucket list. David, of course, you're perfect. And we did a 10-person My Fair Lady. So it was somebody, as so oftentimes for musical theater fans out there, especially you have these epic, you know, 35, 40 person casts with these choruses, and to figure out how to condense that into a producible, small sort of chamber ensemble was a real challenge. But obviously Higgins only plays Higgins, Eliza only plays Eliza, but then just about everybody else played multiple characters and with 2 pianos. So it was, and so the whole thing felt like it all of a sudden brought Shaw into the piece even more, because you were paying attention to words and to just the whole piece. It was the most exciting thing I have ever done on stage. And it was just,
I'm so happy for you that you got an opportunity to do it, and very jealous. It's true. You hit on a great point, that there is a muscle that you must use when you play a role like that.
Absolutely.
You know, another one of my perennials is Don Quixote, as you.
I was going to say, but behind you, of course.
You can't get away from it in this apartment, but but in a way, it's easier than what you described, because I've also played Carrasco, and you have 40 minutes as Carrasco where you're off stage, and then you've got to get your energy back up and come in with an intensity. And those roles where you play a million people, they're fun. But for me, maybe it's because I've done so many of them, and I you know, you always want what the grass is always greener, but I don't. To me, that's a technical thing, but I don't go on an emotional journey. I don't go on an arc when I play a role like that. And even if the role is tremendously difficult, I prefer the arc, because it's that the other thing becomes rather. I mean, Randy, you know, when we were doing 39 Steps, I had to do all those accents and all those characters, but I was probably grumbling, you know, 2 weeks into the run, going, "Oh, this is exhausting," and I don't feel any emotional release at the end of the show.
But you were brilliant in it, in all of those roles. But it's a different.
I thank you, but I think, and I don't want to. I don't want the message out there to be to any casting director or director say, "Well, he doesn't want to do that anymore. Don't hire him." That it's been a bread and butter thing, but also the other roles are as well, and there's a different muscle that you use, and in a way, I find the other one easier, even if you have to carry a show, because you stay with that journey all throughout, and you don't have to start from the beginning in every scene with every character. And
that's very true. It's not an off-on switch. You're just constantly you're building. When I did Leo Bloom, you did the producers, exact same kind of thing, and I did that before I did Higgins, obviously, and but it was the same. I was like, what? Because I was used to being like the, you know, not Carmen Gia, but, you know, more of that kind of role or sort of genre type, but then to be someone who is, it's so fun to be an unconventional leading man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, but the energy that required, not to mention wearing 3-piece wool suits and a trench coat in an unair conditioned historic theater in August, and the oceans of Rhode Island with ceiling fans in the audience. It's a great weight loss program. Oh.
Well, having been the skinniest Max Bialystock, I know what bears both those roles are.
Yes, you would have been the skinniest Max Bialystock, because yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's also one of those bucket list roles you
Let's do that together. That would be so fun. It could be, the producers like 15 years later.
Yes, the producers too.
Call me. I've done it twice. I'll do it with you guys, Max and Leo, right here.
Fantastic. Oh my God.
Let's do it. Let's totally do it.
Love that.
So producers out there, if you're listening, we'll bone up and do, and Randy, stage manager extraordinaire, will be there as well.
You got your 3 equity contracts right here.
Right here.
There you go. There you go. So and Randy doing both of us are envious of doing a gentleman's guide. When the phone doesn't ring at a theater that is doing it, and you've worked for them. 2 years ago, when I was doing my last show at the now defunct Westchester Broadway Theater, which in fact I'm drinking my iced coffee from a Westchester Broadway Theater glass right here. Bill Stutler, the producer out there, said, "Well, we were thinking of doing that show about the killer." And I figured out what he was talking about. And he said, if anybody could do it, you could do it. And now, unfortunately, we've lost them. We've lost a lot of theaters over this last year.
There'll be a Dysquith family. You'll play the Dysquith family at some point in your career.
Well, I look at it now. When I was in my 20s, I would look at these huge roles and I say, of course, can you see a younger man in the part? And now when I'm the right age to do them, and I think, oh gee, will I have the stamina to do it anymore? So
it's a marathon. It really is, because you're also on stage the whole time, and when you're not, you're backstage changing costumes. And if you really want to see the beauty and the magic of backstage, come and watch those quick changes backstage when you're going from one character to another. The actor Googie, wonderful actor in Atlanta, played the role for us, and it really takes a while to separate getting into the characters and the technical elements of getting into the costume pieces. I mean, the changes are it's like a NASCAR pit stop backstage, because we would literally choreograph all that out, and the dressers were amazing, and everything was laid out, and he literally, it's what we call a strip and rip and dress. He would come in, the old costume goes off, he steps onto the new costume, he gets picked up, we give him a drink of water, we straighten his wig, we slap him on the butt and send him out for the next one. So the hardest thing for that, he knows the roles. It's like, what comes next? Who am I now? Oh, I'm the Reverend. Okay, great.
Well, maybe our audiences who have never experienced those sort of quick changes. God knows I did so many of them in shows like Irma Vep and Little Me, and even when you're doing a show like Lacage, where you have 4 different dresses in one number, and you have to keep your wig on and your eyelashes from sticking together and all of that stuff. It would be great if somebody would have a camera and a quick change booth like they had for your work.
Yeah, that would be fascinating.
I don't know who would.
Oh, we've got some of that. When we come back again, we'll bring that. It's amazing. It's amazing. And all of those quick changes that you did, I'm sure you made every single one of them too. You didn't miss a one.
Because of the amazing dressers that we had. The other thing is your dresser knows an awful lot about you. And you must remember to wear proper underwear before you get to the theater. That's rule number 1. But anyway, on that note, I do want to ask you guys, because we are looking to the future. I know it's a scary question, but are you working on projects now that may come to fruition in the next months? Or Randy, I know it's hard to be a stage manager when there's nothing to stage manage, but you're always busy.
I've been, lots of irons in the fire. As of right now, I've been very fortunate to be involved with the City Springs Theater Company. Hopefully to go back there. That's a marvelous, marvelous new theater company in Atlanta. Very, very fortunate to work with them. It's a dream situation down there. They perform in the Sandy Springs Performing Arts Center. So it's a big, beautiful space.
That looks like a gorgeous theater from your video.
It's just beautiful, just beautiful. So they do kind of what I do. I've evolved into a stage manager that does big musicals. So they have things coming up for the future.
Big musical for you to do this year.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's and they're wildly popular. They have evolved during the pandemic, and they're doing a lot of video. Mason Wood, who is their director of media there, is just a genius in terms of videotaping reviews and concerts. So they haven't missed a beat during the pandemic in terms of product and keeping their presence before the public. So there's some projects there. I worked with Tent Theater at Missouri State University 2 summers ago. I was supposed to go back out there this past summer, and interestingly enough, one of the shows we were going to do was The Producers. That would have been my second production of The Producers. So that got canceled, obviously, and then this coming season is going to be modified, but then they're moving into a new $10 million outdoor venue in 2022. So fingers are crossed. It would be a great honor to be the stage manager who closed out the last venue and the stage manager to do the first show in the new venue. So, and the students were great. I got to go out there and work with just amazing, fabulous students. And if you haven't gone back to the college experience, that was actually quite rejuvenating. I was coming off a tour and some hard shows and burned out. And it's, that time when you get to the point, as we all do I really want to keep on doing this? Really? Really? And going back out and working with the kids again, and that excitement and that energy, I mean, it was like I was in college again. I just loved every bit of the experience. And the outdoor theater was great. They would roll up the tents, and you're dealing with Missouri weather, and you could smell, it's like a 500, 600 seat circus tent, and you would do the performance outside, and the fireflies would fly into the audience, and you could smell the popcorn, and people would ride by on bicycles, and the ambulance would go down on the street behind you, and people would sit on the grass with their picnic lunches and watch. It was heaven. It was heaven. So hopefully you go back to that.
You make lemonade out of lemons. A lot of people would have complained about those same elements, but you love it. And
I did, but I loved it more than I hated it. So
okay, good. And Doug, what are you working on? You're doing self tapes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on getting a job. Basically,
and collecting residuals for all those jobs that you did have.
Yes, I'm grateful to the residuals. Still getting paid from things like 30 Rock, which was 9 years ago. I have the animated TV show. I play the dad. It's called Angelo Rules. You can see it on YouTube. It's really a show that's done overseas. It's a French production company, but we got extended for a 5th season. So I'm doing scripts. I'm doing recordings from home, which is awesome. So it's actually a really charming show. I play a henpecked dad. It's a real stretch for me. So, I do what I can. And yeah, just, auditioning for stuff here. I'm just so looking forward to being able to go back in the room, back into the, I just started a new acting class, which I'm crazy about. But to be able to physically be in a room with people and do even just this kind of thing, because I'm a rehearsal junkie. I love the process. I love everybody getting in a room and just kind of figuring it out. So I look so forward to being able to do that. And it's great to see things that are streaming, but nothing beats, as we all know, nothing beats the live.
Agreed.
Even if you're in an audition room, it's just to have people behind the table, and that energy and that exchange it's a drug, and we need it.
Well, this is our little placebo for the time being. I feel like I've spent 90 minutes with you guys. I feel like I had a little nostalgic trip to Nashville.
Yes.
I'm glad you guys are hooked up. I hope that you will get to work together, and you'll have many means of cocktails reminiscing about Tennessee and your roots and everybody that you know together. And I hope that our audience appreciates the 90 minutes that you've spent with me today. I certainly do. it has kept me going for these 31 shows, and we hope that.
Congratulations, by the way. This is a labor of love.
Awesome what you do. Awesome.
Well, next week I want to announce our guests. We have some exciting people next week. Nicholas King, who is a Broadway performer who is now a tremendous recording artist, a young man who I was listening to his new album, and we're going to share moments of that with our audience next week. And Lisa St. Lou, who I knew first as Lisa Rothhauser in the Producers when we were on the national tour together, a very talented actress, but she has now become a composer, lyricist, recording artist, and has a new single out that is just amazing. Wow. And last but certainly not least is the Broadway legend, Karen Mason. I'm very happy to have all three of these people on next week. And I will tell you that the following week, we're going to skip, because the night before the 28th, the 27th, I am proud to say I'm having my second vaccination. I don't want to, if I have any side effects at all, I don't want to share them with the live audience. So I take a little vacation that week, and I bring it up because I want to say I am so excited and so happy to be able to do this, because it means that all of us will be able to get back to our livelihood as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. So I encourage anybody, if you've got the opportunity, grab it, do it. I had no side effects from my first vaccination, and right. If I have a little side effects from this one, I'll take it. I'm very glad.
Absolutely.
No, it's working. That's what they tell us. So that is our crew for next week. Remember to donate to the Actors Fund. That's where we all get our sustenance during this difficult period. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And if there are any theater professionals out there who would like to be a panelist on Beyond the Green Room, we remind you to send us an email at beyondthegreenroom@gmail.com. Look for us on Facebook and on YouTube. Until next week, thank you very much.
Thank you.